good evening, good morning. I hope you're all well, wherever you are in the world. And it's not about being engulfed in flames, although maybe everywhere is. Who knows or dares to dream? We still have war here in Israel. No famine as yet, but, I'm sure the rest of the horsemen of the apocalypse will be stalking out. But, sorted hell. Waiting for something to happen. I thought that was going to happen today, right? I thought something was going to go down today. Like my younger son, they collect their phones in, right, before they go into a combat situation or before they might go into a combat situation, because they keep collecting a phone, right? And I really thought today was the day, right? I really thought today was the day because he sounded more spooked, right? So no. I mean, look, for me, I have pound them from have the Air Force pound ours for the next 2 weeks, as far as I'm concerned. That's better for me, right? Less chance of my kid facing an anti-tank missile, the better. Although, man, I saw footage of anti-tank missile being used up north. Up north, by the way, is where the real problem is. So just so you understand how this all works, right? We have in the south of Israel, there's Gaza. We call it Gaza, right? It's like, can I find an Israel map? Hang on. Israel, Hamas war map. Let's see if I can map. Doink. Let's see what we can pull up. Okay, allow. We want to allow that. What's going on? Oh, this looks quite good. Okay, that'll do the trick. Fine, we'll take this one. It's obviously not a BBC map because instead of saying, evil Zionist oppressors, it just says Israel, right? So yeah, you have to know who you're dealing with here. We call that doing. By the way, I do think my thumbnail today was particularly good, if I may say so myself, right? Particularly good. We'll be coming back to that soon, or maybe coming all over it. 1 second, fine. Share screen, baby. Share screen. Share screen. Fine. This will give you a bit of a political primer so you can understand what's going on in the world of politics and combat, right? Let me zoom in. So fine. So this is the orange bit is Israel. The red bit is the West Bank. Basically, you see where the West Bank is pointing? This is where I live, right? That Shea Rabbi right there, right? I'm basically right there. So thank you for pointing me out. West Bank, thank you very much. The north is up here, obviously, at the north. And the south down here, right? So let's zoom in a little bit more. Now, my son actually used to go to school right here. Anyway, I digress. So my son's down south, right? One of my sons down south and waiting to do the land invasion of Gaza, right? Because Gaza, that's where the Hamas came out from, and they just did the most unspeakable atrocities. We're still hearing more about it. I was going to play more, but man, it's too much of a downer, right? Oh, but there's more details coming out. There was this maybe I should get the video. Yeah, there was a forensic scientist who was doing a briefing, and he starts crying in the middle. I mean, fuck me. That's never a good sign, right? That's never a good sign that things are all tickety-boo, right? I mean, stuff he's talking about is quite kind of grim, in all fairness. Let me just grab that. But anyway, the point is this. So Hamas is funded by Iran. Hang on a second. Guy's name's Dr. Google, really? Fine. So Hamas is funded by Iran, and so is Hezbollah. Hezbollah are in the north. Now Hezbollah is a much better. Can you see where I highlighted? They're much better. Actually, can I draw on this thing? Hang on. Yay! Let me do that. Fine. So this over here, that's the north, right? That's where my older son is. Somewhere around there. I don't know. Hezbollah, right? They're up there. They're much better armed, right? They got 200,000 high tech missiles. Most of the missiles coming out of Gaza are cheap ones. They make them themselves, and they're kind of crappy, right? So, but the the scum from Gaza, they're the ones that broke out and raped and murdered. I mean, there's just so much rape. Oh my God. I mean, really, I don't think that's a good PR stunt, right? There's so much bloody rape going on. So Hamas is being eradicated, right? However, both Hamas and Hezbollah are funded by Iran. What's going on with Iran is they're worried that Israel is about to make a lasting peace with the Arab world, with Saudi Arabia, with the David Accords. And they don't have nuclear weapons as yet, and they want to slow Israel down. So I think that's why they greenlit this operation. I think it was far bloodier and far more disgusting than people thought it would be, right? I mean, it was just like they received no opposition. How that happened, I don't know how that happened. Well, I do know how that happened. It was the will of God, right? That's what God said, and that's what happened. That's how I view things, right? Now, why that God did that? Several reasons, but I found this has been a complete litmus test of people's morality, which is the interesting thing we're going to be talking about today, because that's breaking out across the UK right now. People are like, "What the hell? You're supporting this?" So anyway, right now we have half the army surrounding Gaza, right? But what's going to happen is if Hamas is taken out, that's a big problem for Iran, because they need Hamas to support Hezbollah, right? And so Hezbollah will then go into a full attack mode. And the fear is, right, Israel will enact the Samson doctrine, which is if you face overwhelming odds, we step up a notch and we go straight to nukes, right? That's why we got such a strong military presence from America and the UK, and I think a few other places, right? It's because they want to deter Iran from green lighting Hezbollah to join this fight, even though I think it's almost inevitable that's going to happen. So the real problem's up north, right? The real thing to be concerned about up north, because they have a lot more they have a lot more. They have a lot better. They're a lot better equipped. Bottom line, right? Bottom line. But it's interesting. As I said, like in the UK, the debate's going on right now. And I find this a litmus test for morality, right? I think was it Dan posted sentence on me. Douglas Murray, man, he's been great, right? He's been great. So he's this is his response to a very common question that Israel's being asked right now. Off you go. It's thinking about it.
The siege of Gaza, cutting off all supplies of fuel, the last electricity plant, that's gone. There is no electricity, there is no running water, there is no food going in, there are no other fuel supplies going in. Borders closed with Egypt as well. Bizarrely little criticism of Egypt for that, interestingly.
Why didn't the borders close with Egypt? Because they don't want these people, because they're a nightmare wherever they freaking go. There's a reason here, 300,000 or 30,000, I really should know the number, ejected from Kuwait in 91. They are a nightmare wherever they go, these people. And I'm sorry, that's why nobody in the Arab world is offering to take refugees, and they really should be. Frankly, as well, yes, there is significant suffering in Gaza, right? I would be insane to say that's not the case. There's significant suffering in Gaza. I don't think cutting off the water and the electric supply is collective punishment. This is just how you fight a war. I'm sorry, and it's a war that was forced on us, as I think we have seen. It was genuinely forced on us, right? And again, everybody there has been warned to leave, right? If you're still there, you're Hamas, right? Although we'll find out why they're not leaving in a minute. But here's a good response.
Is that, and while raining down missiles on buildings which they know are going to kill...
Excuse me, we're not raining down missiles. These are, I know it looks like you're seeing rubble and devastation. These are incredibly targeted missiles, let me tell you. It's amazing what you can do with a blunt instrument, right? I've seen a tank fire into a rioting crowd of 2,000 people and only take out like the 100 or so enemy combatants who are stationed at a command post. Right, a tank, not a sniper rifle. Anyway, carry on.
Civilians. We know hundreds and hundreds of civilians have already died, many of them children. Is that a reasonable, proportionate, and moral response by Israel?
There is some.
Well, I just want to say yes. Yes, it is. Well, you have your say, Dougie.
Deep perversion in Britain whenever Israel is involved in a conflict, and it is the word you just used, proportion, proportionate, proportionality. Only Britain is really obsessed with this. I've heard it for the last few.
Oh, no, America as well. Like anybody who wants to, give Israel shit, essentially.
Days, incessantly. Proportionality in conflict rarely exists. But if we were to decide that we should have this fetish about proportionality, then that would mean that in retaliation for what Hamas did in Israel on Saturday, Israel should try to locate a music festival in Gaza, for instance, and good luck with that.
That might be a bit tricky. Listen, I have every faith in the Israeli military. That one might be tricky. Although the Israeli military had to arrange a music festival in Gaza, I'm sure they could do it.
Should try to find a music festival in Gaza and rape precisely the number of women that Hamas raped on Saturday. Kill precisely the number of young people that Hamas killed on Saturday. They should find a town of exactly the same size as a town like Sderot, where I've been many times myself, and make sure they go to door and kill precisely the correct number of babies that Hamas killed in Sderot on Saturday, and shoot in the head precisely the same number of old age pensioners as were shot in Sderot on Saturday. Just to
and then if you're shot in the head, you were lucky. Let me tell you, you were lucky.
Choose one town. Proportionality in conflict is a joke. And it's a very strange British concept which we've had, that only the Israelis in a conflict, when they are attacked, are expected to have precisely the proportionate response.
So here, again, I don't want to dwell too much because it's a real downer. But let's just go over what actually happened on Saturday. This is just one more thing, and it's breathtaking.
Which is an example to the atrocities that we have seen in the tragic event and in Israel. This is a burned body, of course, of an adult.
Dude, I didn't know that was okay. Of course, this is a bone. Thank you.
But we know that he was burned while he was alive because we can see soot in the trachea of this person.
Yeah, man, that is a grim knowledge base to have.
And they couldn't shoot him because he was inside a shelter. So they burned the house, and everybody that was inside was burned while he was alive. And this is only one example of many atrocities and many horrific things that we are seeing here in this tragedy that happened to Israel. I'm 31 years a forensic pathologist. I'm used to see dead people, but I never saw.
I'm hearing this over and over again, by the way. All the people that went in to clean up, clean up essentially, which we have a lot of very experienced people to do this, unfortunately, because there's a Jewish tradition that you need to, because there's a great respect to one's physical self, right? You want to bury every part of it. You don't want to leave any part not buried.
People that are conjoined together while they are burned, trying to hug each other. I'm sorry.
I mean, dude, when are you making a guy like that, who is the straightest guy and the straightest norm in the world, have to stop speaking? And I think you might have gone too far. So I think honestly, I think they encountered no resistance. There must be some. Must be somebody on the inside. That's what I would say. Must be someone on the inside. But anyway, so none of these people got a 24-hour warning to get out of Dodge. So when I see all these people with tragically maimed and killed in Israel, and in his Israeli bombing, and I don't really believe much of it to start with it because they lie so freaking much, right? Freaking lie about everything all the freaking time. So I don't know what to believe. For all I know is there's a building gets blown up, and they know where it's going to get, what building's going to get blown up and where, because we phone everybody and tell them, right? Then they go and like run around and roll around the soot and go, oh, take pictures of themselves, right? I would believe that. I would totally believe that. But here, human shields is really their number one thing they have right now. And that's why they're trying to stop losing their human shields.
In control of Gaza is preventing civilians from leaving their homes after the Israelis warned them of an impending strike. I also spoke with a civilian in Gaza City who confirmed this information. This is significant because the source indicated Hamas
I reckon this was happening a few days ago.
Is threatening people and preventing them from leaving if they tried to get to a safer location.
Wait, Trey, then all of these Palestinian people will die. Why would that be Hamas's goal?
الإسرائيلي معروف عنه أنه بحب الحياة.
إحنا to love life. It's true. We, on the other hand, sacrifice ourselves.
نضحي. نعتبر أنه قتلنا شهداء. فأمنا يعني أهم أمنية عند أي واحد فلسطيني أنه يستشهد في سبيل الله الدفاع عن الأرض.
Again, I don't know how representative this gentleman is, but there is, you know, this is why it's so debilitating being called Nazis, right? Because this is so the antithesis of what we are as a country, right? It's breathtaking, like how much we're not that, and the lengths we go to not be that, right? And again. Like for me, they can bomb another couple of weeks and keep my kids safe, right? I'm totally happy with that. I'm totally happy with that. But here, so I find it interesting in England, the national conversation is really a moral split. Here we have Matt Goodwin, who I don't know who he is, but he spoke very well the other day.
Or he said the normalization of dehumanization of Palestinians.
Bullshit. I'm sorry. Like, we're not dehumanizing you, right? We don't have a bloody choice. Again, this is a war forced on us by them. Like, maybe don't, take on a heavily armed superpower and give you no choice but to destroy them, right? It's the weirdest thing, right? It is really I don't know. Yeah, what's it? Like.
This is what Ben has been talking about. That's what he worries about here. Do you think that he, in support of Palestinians and a Palestinian state, a two-state solution, is something that gets lost?
By the way, the two-state solution was always supported by Israel up until about 10, 15 years ago, right? And the reason that lost popular support was because of Gaza, right? Because Gaza was supposed to be the first step to a two-state solution. We disengage, we ethnically cleanse the Jews from there, right? Because the Palestinians wouldn't suffer any Jews to live with them, right? We ethnically cleansed all the Jews from them, dragged them from their homes, and destroyed most of their lives. That's just as I was arriving in Israel, right? And it failed completely, right? It failed completely because, you know, it's a big mistake to impose one set of cultural values onto a different culture. Right? The Arab world doesn't have Western culture. It doesn't have Western cultural values. It's a very different cultural value. I'm not saying one's better or one's worse, right? In some areas, there's you could argue either way, but there's no pluralism in the Arab world. Anyway.
In what is a very heated and difficult debate.
I thought that interview was outrageous. I thought it was ridiculous. I think the fact that he was given so much time relative to a representative of Britain's Jewish community was outrageous. And he was given. But
I don't understand. But I love how he steamrollers over the bullshit.
Considerably more time than the Community Security Trust, and this is exactly why British Jews are feeling so badly treated. And I can't remember a time in my life when I felt more ashamed by our national debate and our country as I have over the last week.
I mean, do you remember, I think Dearborn, where a guy went into a mosque and murdered a bunch of people in America? Could you imagine if there were rallies outside of, I don't know, Muslim embassies or whatever, cheering this, and they say, well, it's freedom of speech, right? And the idea that the BBC refuses to label Hamas as terrorists, and, well, that's editorializing. That's like saying you have somebody tried and convicted for murder and just say, no, he's a killer. We're not going to editorialize. No, like, how much more a terrorist do you want them to freaking be? It's crazy. Like, I mean, like it's absolutely crazy. Like how unhinged a terrorist you are. Yeah, we'll listen a couple of minutes and then we'll hear one more testimony.
I've tried to imagine how I would feel if I was a British Jew. We have a national broadcaster, the BBC, unable to call a Nazi-inspired, ISIS-inspired terrorist group terrorists. We have the same broadcaster investigating BBC Arabic journalists for expressing sympathy for Hamas. We have the institutions of our national community like Wembley Stadium showing the rainbow flag to protest against Qatar, but not showing the colours of Israel in solidarity. And we have...
I mean, he's making a lot of good points there now, isn't he? All right? I mean, that's the thing. The insane outrage over nothing. Why? Because they don't want you to pee in that bathroom. And the people are calling this ethnic cleansing and genocide in Gaza. Darling, you've been saying we've been doing that for 30 years. At some point, we would have succeeded, right? I'm for goodness sake. That's why no one's listening to you. You kept saying the same stupid things over and over again.
The universities where I work a few years ago fell over themselves to express solidarity with George Floyd and what happened centuries ago in America, but are unable to issue the same condemnation of what's happened in Israel. Not to mention the fact we've now got schools telling Jewish children in Britain in 2023 not to show symbols of their faith, and we've got fireworks and celebrations going on Edgware Road, and we've got idiots like that guy excusing the glorification of terrorism.
Well, hang on,
Joe, I was at the protest. I was at the protest, and there's one thing he didn't mention, which were the groups of men running around physically attacking people.
Yeah, I mean, look, dude, as again, you know, we had to change the entire world for the Rainbow Alliance, right? You can't shed a tear for things like this. Again, I hate to dwell on this, but it's just, you know, like it's kind of I feel it's kind of like my duty. We'll get onto like more upbeat stuff soon.
Broken into our kibbutz. Oh my God, Grandma. Please take care of yourself. We love you.
Yeah, this is her last conversation with the grandmother.
This is the last message that my grandma sent us. Anything happened there? My grandma answered, there's a lot happening here. Rockets like you wouldn't even believe, and they are shooting from weapons too. A real party. We love you and we wish we could help. Please.
Could you imagine getting these texts? Like, what?
Take care of yourself. Did they leave yet? Are you in the shelter?
That's the thing. They burnt most people in the bloody shelter. Kids. Oh, disgusting.
They are here again. Are there soldiers around? Or is it just the community ground? No soldier around. Then she wrote to us, you wouldn't believe it. There are street battles happening in our yard. Terrorists have broken into our kibbutz.
Yeah, I don't know why we're all shocked. They said they wanted to do this for years, right? It's just by the grace of God, they haven't been able to.
Oh my God, Grandma. Please take care of yourself. We love you. We are still in the shelter. They broke into our house and broke everything. The whole kibbutz is on fire. That's the last message we got from her.
What choice do we fucking have? I'm really genuinely, what choice do we have?
We know nothing else ends. Please help us bring her back home.
I mean, is she home or is she dead? We don't know. She was abducted. Oh my God. She was this old woman that was abducted. The number's up to 199 abductees now, but I'm sure they're thin those out. Anyway, I want to skim this article with you and then move forward, right? Because this article, I think, really helps explain it to people who aren't Jewish, right? Who aren't like who don't understand the cultural reality of it. Because you got to remember, for the last 9 months or so, we were major rocket barrage towards Jerusalem, stops Knesset session. That's bad news. My wife was looking to go back to work on Wednesday. I guess that's off now. She works in Jerusalem, right? But if you don't culturally understand where we are, this article really explains it. Hamas does not yet understand the depth of the Israeli resolve. Now, I want to remind you, if Hamas is taken out, then Hezbollah has to come in, and that ties in Iran and Syria. That's why the American aircraft carriers and the British destroyer group is here. Well, we have no choice. We have, Hamas is going down, right? The country is so united on this front, and we've been at each other's throats for too long. And quite frankly, while this is an awful tragedy, we are happy as a country to have the tension of the Supreme Court. The bullshit of the Supreme Court. All that was happening with the Supreme Court was that they were going to be have the members elected in the same way they're elected in America, right? Not have them elect themselves into an unelected body. But man, that was a flashpoint, a near revolution, right? Israelis have been hounded by terror, whether pursuing peace or rejecting it. After October 7th, there's no tolerating a group whose sole strategy is brutality and mass murder. That's the other thing, right? I think it was Douglas Murray that says sometimes something happens that a flare goes up and you see where everybody is morally, right? And this really is a stark contrast, right? And look, I've actually been having a bit of a back and forth with Danny John Jules from Red Dwarf, who posted some pro-Palestinian stuff, then got hammered on his timeline. So I invited him to come on the channel. He's like, look, I'm a normal bloke with a weird job, right? That's the thing. I don't think Danny John Jules is in the least bit anti-Semitic or hates anyone. I think he's been sold a crock of bullshit that the calls for the Palestinian plight is racism. It's not. For God's sake, we want to live in peace. It's better to live in peace. We as a country want that to happen. Now, there's a lot of people very cynical that can possibly happen, right? And so we're on a adversarial footing. But if we could press a button tomorrow and the Arabs would live in peace with us, man, we would also press that button. And I think we really would, even now. Fine. So this has been a great awakening, right? It's hard in the wake of the October 7th massacre to calmly contemplate Palestinian strategy and thinking. There is no Israeli unaffected, no one that a family or friends reeling from the Hamas onslaught. That's true. Freaking everyone. Again, both my sons on the front lines. My neighbor's son, 3 doors down. I've known him since he was a baby. I've known him since he was a kid, right? He's got 10, 15 men under his command, infantry. He'll be tip of the spear, first one's in, right? It's terrifying, right? My neighbor's grandson was killed in the initial attack. It was an officer. It was a soldier killed in the initial attack. This has affected everyone, literally everyone. It's also like COVID. Everyone's at home, right? You're not allowed to go anywhere. Well, there's nowhere to go really, because there's too many rockets everywhere. Fine. There's no Israeli unaffected. Reading from the answer, including this writer, not overcome with anxiety. I am overcome with anxiety. But when I thought my son was going to say, "Woo!" Well, that was an anxious day, right? I got a neighbor who she's got four sons. They're older, and her husband's in a very elite unit in the army, like a search rescue unit. And boy, he's only a little bit younger than me, but he works out all the time to keep himself fit to stay in that unit, right? Because it's something very mundane. She wakes up at 3 a.m, right, and thinks what her eulogy would be, right? And I relate to her, right? I totally relate. Yeah, I do shit like that, right? You can't stop your mind from going there. The enemy is not the Palestinian people, of course, even though they support the terror attacks. Support among terror attacks is widespread among the Palestinians. The enemy is not exactly Hamas either. It's interesting, though Hamas is a part of it. The enemy is the Palestinian theory of Israelis that makes violence in October 7th seem like a rational step to the road to liberation, rather than, as Israelis judge it, another in a long string of self-inflicted disasters for the Palestinian cause. Man, yeah. The October 7th massacre wasn't an outlier in Hamas's long history of brutality. It was the apotheosis. Am I saying that right? It was what Hamas would do if it could. On a dark Saturday, on that dark Saturday, it suddenly found that it could, and so it did. But the unbelievable brutality displayed by the terrorists doesn't mean the massacre was an emotional act. The Palestinians, honestly, they don't view raping all the women as an emotional thing. It's just, no, we do that to humiliate you, to dirty you. And that's literally the words that they say, right? Palestinians is really chaotic and emotionally driven. The most horrifying example of it, the suicide bombings of the past and the rampage of the mass kidnapping seen on Saturday, are carefully planned and deliberate acts. The Palestinian strategy of terrorizing Israeli citizens is old. Blah, 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 goes on. Bit of history. What do they want? Supporters of Palestine, of the Palestinian cause in the West, even as they are discomforted by images of parents lying murdered in front of their children or burned corpses of babies, and again, if they're lucky, are now asking a simple question in Hamas's defense. What would you do if faced with decades of Israeli occupation? Not that. The Israeli policies in the West Bank towards Gaza and the pain and justice that flow from them, they argue, are the cause of the kind of hatred on display of October 7th. The problem with Palestinians, the problems for the Palestinians, and the problem with the immense consequences, and it's a problem with immense consequences for them. Exactly. There are immense consequences. The vast majority of Israelis disagree. They believe Hamas would have acted even the same if the occupation had ended 2 decades. It did end 2 decades earlier, right? The belief may seem self-serving to outsiders, but it's rooted in a deep and painful emotional experience. In the fall of 2000, we saw a wave of 140 suicide bombings in Israeli citizen towns, killing grandmothers and infants on buses and pizzerias, and driving the political elites from power so comprehensively that a generation later they've scarcely recovered. That's freaking true, right? They destroyed the Israeli left with their suicide bombing campaign. The shattering effect of this mass murder wasn't caused by the shock and trauma attack. It was caused by the timing. In 2000, the peace process hadn't yet seen 2 decades of stagnation. No far-right parties sat in ruling coalition. Ending the occupation was an idea that won an election. Negotiators at Camp David were reported to be discussing an Israeli shared Palestinian sovereignty of Temple Mount. There was no Israeli soldiers in any Palestinian city or town. They've been pulled from the previous 3 years. The Palestinians' incomes and college education rates were rising. Things seem to be falling into place. Peace, many civilians assumed, was imminent. Yeah, because they figured that an economic, growth, right, is the key to peace. Not when you're dealing with fuck-nut and crazy people who just want to kill you because you're Jews, right? The political left also fought what amounted to an internal political civil war to get the blah 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 blah. Okay, Palestine. This goes on for a while, doesn't it? Clarity. I think let's go down. Okay. Then Saturday came, and the death of Israeli questions. For a moment, the Israelis' guards went down. Hamas was free to live out its intention. It did so with blazing clarity of purpose. That's true. Again, that's why I think this is a biblical act, right? I think everything is a biblical act, but I think this is a footstep in history. It's obvious to Israelis that Hamas's brutal strategy cannot liberate the Palestinians, so the violence can't be explained to them as an attempt at liberation. Nor does Hamas bother to articulate its strategy and rationale to Israelis, as Algerian FON, Algeria's, I know, Flan, who was it, the Phantom Flanflinger, once did so clearly to the French. It asked them to flee or die. but it can't articulate where they should flee to. Israelis are now convinced that the massacre on the 7th and its enormity and astonishing cruelty, and especially the joy in which it was carried out, wasn't the Palestinians' miscalculation, because the Palestinian independence wasn't its goal. The goal of October 7th was the fall of 2000 and simply a complete removal of Jews from the land. Yeah, and yes, that's basically it. We have an existential threat on our hands. This is literally that. With clarity comes closure. Israelis are unified as never before, and not just by the horrors perpetrated by Hamas. It's a question of answering the question is answered at long last. The brutality they once saw as a question turned out to be the answer. The purpose and the end of much of Palestinian politics. One can see the ideological roots of Mash's strategy, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, listen, here's the thing. Israel is so insanely united, right? A brutalized, embittered Israeli will finally liberate the Palestinians from their own wrecked vision of their cause and their enemy. Not out of magnanimity, but for Israeli society, necessity and pain. Hamas's destruction alone won't bring about peace, but perhaps it isn't too optimistic to hope it can mark the end of Palestine's long collapse. Again, this is clearly a left-leaning guy, right? Clearly a left-leaning guy. And he's saying, we got to destroy Hamas to save Palestine, right? To save the Palestinian people. That I would say that's reasonably united, right? United front. So, but yeah, again, waiting on Schmilkers, literally waiting on Schmilkers to see what will happen next. Although I don't know if this is real or not, right? This might be disinformation put out by Israelis. I wouldn't know, but apparently we have an iron beam now. Forget your Iron Dome, baby. Check out this iron beam.
No.
What's that? If that's a projected energy weapon, which as it looks like, bloody hell. I mean, the amount of energy you've got to put out from that. What the hell is that? Well, I tell you, if they work it out, it's got to be cheaper than no. I know. I wouldn't be surprised. Who knows what technology they're going to wheel out, right? Nobody really knows. We live in strange times. My name's Tzvi Lebetkin, the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring that little bell. Ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop.